What is going on, everybody? Happy Friday evening. Welcome to the 9th episode of Sicko Soundoff. I'm your host for tonight, Jim Rosati, and we've got some sickos lined up tonight. So we've got three people on the docket who are here to discuss anything they want to talk about. So, like I said, this show is about you guys. If you want to join the show, join our Discord. And every other week while we're having this show, you'll see a contest where you can throw your name in the hat to appear on Sicko Soundoff. And again, this is the show for you guys. You can talk about whatever you want to talk about. I'm just here as the sounding board and making sure that nothing goes too crazy. But yeah, like I said, welcome Sicko Soundoff. Before we get to our first guest, let me just tell you guys a little bit about Bet Online, because the biggest betting weekend of the year is finally here, which means more updated odds and props for Super Sunday. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. We have hundreds of prop bets, MVP odds, and exclusive in-game live betting. Bet Online is your ultimate game day companion. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, Bet Online offers you everything and more to enhance your game day experience. Visit the website today and make game day action count a little more. There we go. A little typo in that. Bet Online, the game starts here. All right, guys. Pitt City, what? Nice Oilers hat. This is not an Oilers hat. This is a Louisville Mashers hat. Actually, it's the alter ego of the Louisville Bats. So, one of my favorite hats. But so I appreciate that. Before we bring on the first guest too, I do also want to make an announcement. If you didn't catch it on Twitter today, last year, if you've been with us a little bit, you know that we partnered with Permane Brothers last season during our post-game shows where we were giving out free sandwiches during every post-game show following a Pirates win. Today we announced that is being ran back. We've partnered with Permane's once again. We're super excited. We're going to be giving away more sandwiches this year. So last year we gave out 154 sandwiches. We gave away 2 for every single win. Hopefully we're giving out a whole lot more sandwiches this year, but we're super excited to announce that because run it back. We got more sandwiches to give away. All right. So let's get to the show. Our first guest, he's been on here quite often. So we're going to bring on OG. OG, welcome to the show. You're our first sicko of the night. How's it going, man? Oh, you're on mute. You pulled a me.
I did a Jim. Look at that. So I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me on again. Sorry about the mute button. Well, it has been a slow winter, hasn't it? And we're all getting pretty frustrated at the lack of action. So I thought it would be fun to come on here and manifest a Paul Skenes extension, which
I like it.
A lot of folks look at the free agent action out there and they see Juan Soto getting $800 million contract, and they see Ohtani last year getting a $700 million contract. And they see this superstar on the rise, Paul Skenes, who got Cy Young votes in his rookie year, got Rookie of the Year, is blowing the doors off of everybody, starting the All-Star game, getting elected to the union executive committee, getting on the cover of the show. He's doing it all. So he's going to be super expensive, right? There's no way the Pirates can afford to even think about extending Paul Skenes when other guys are making that kind of money. Except everybody forgets about how much these players have their salaries stamped down by arbitration and the kind of leverage that gives teams. This is the reason why Ozzie Albies and Ronald Acuna Jr. are on such small-looking contracts for what they produce. It's because they got scooped early by a more aggressive general manager than our general manager, who signed them to early deals that leveraged the sort of baked in value of pre-arbitration, where you're working for the league minimum, and then arbitration, where you're scaling up from something much smaller than what the free agent market would pay you. So you can go on Fangraphs and you can find a blog post where they maintain the calculations, where you can kind of figure out based on WAR what a guy is worth in arbitration, or probably will be. Close enough to do something like this. So whenever the subject of a Skenes extension comes up, the first thing that the typical Pirates fan will do is lament that there's no way the team can afford to extend him at all. Okay, well, we'll get into that. The other thing that they'll say is, well, that takes two to tango. Why would Paul Skenes take an extension with the Pirates when he knows that he's going to set the record for starting pitchers, certainly, and potentially, though probably not, for contract value, overall contract value, should he ride out his team control for 5 more years and go into free agency as a 27-year-old ace. So here's where my offer comes in. I'm going to offer Paul Skenes, this is going to sound laughably tiny, I'm going to offer Paul Skenes 7 years, $140 million. Now that sounds ridiculous, right? That's way too small for Paul Skenes. Why would he take that? So
that's actually higher than what I was expecting. But yeah, let's break it down. Yeah.
Here's why it's higher, because we have gone back and forth on this on the Discord. And I had been saying 7-130, but the value of WAR is maybe going up a little bit. There's room for negotiation. I'm valuing Paul Skenes at 5.5 WAR per year, and I'm valuing WAR at $9 million. That's a little lower than what Eno is thinking, like the very top of the market might be spending, but we're not talking about the top of the market. We're talking about a pre-arbitration extension. So we're going to come down closer to what it had been. It's been 8 for a while. We'll call it 9. So if you run it through their calculator, you come up with about $8.5 million in ARB1, a little under 14 in ARB2, and a little over 19 in ARB3. So if he's winning Cy Youngs, if he's doing even bigger and better things than he has been, those can go up. He can be a $10 million ARB1 guy. He can be a $15 million ARB2 guy. And he could be a $20, $21, $22 million ARB3 guy. He's not going to be a $30 million ARB1 guy, Bucko Mike.
Yeah, for comparison's sake here, I don't know if you've got comparisons, but
I do have comps.
I would say Corbin Burns, his 3 ARB years, 32.1 million.
Yeah,
I think that's the highest.
He was 6.5, 10, and 15.6.
Yeah, so Corbin Burns was 32. Jake Arrieta was 29.9. So I think those are the top 2.
Max Fried, he just got his free agent deal, so he's a very recent comp. Now, he didn't win Cy Youngs like Corbin Burns did, but he did have a lot of accolades leading up to his free agency. He got 6.8, 13.5, and 15, but he did have an injury issue there toward the end. So he did pretty well for himself too. But these are the comps. These are the tip top best going to free agency arbitration comps, pretty recent. So it's not outlandish to think that Paul Skenes, if he just blows doors the whole rest of the way until he gets to free agency, would be making 9, 15, 20 in his arbitration years. So
yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah. Roll all of that up and then value WAR at $9 million, and a 7-year deal with all of that comes out to 141 million and an AAV of 20 and a quarter, which of course would set a record by a lot for the contracts that the Pirates have ever given out, of course. But we are still under 80 million for the current payroll. And we were told by everybody who has a source and everybody who has a press credential over the winter that the Pirates have $100 million to spend this year. So it's kind of in the budget to offer Paul Skenes. You don't have to make it all, even money. You can backload it if you want. Mm-hmm. He's just over a 20 million AAV extension for 7 years. Now, why would he do that?
I would do the opposite though. It seems like they should have money to spend right now. Like pay him more now.
I agree. Yeah, do the Key Bryan
down the road.
Yeah, do the Key Bryan thing where you front load it, spend a little bit more now, and that makes him more valuable later when you do inevitably trade him. So that's what the offer is. Now, why would he take that? Like he has an opportunity to go set a record. Well, he's a pitcher who throws 100 miles an hour, and those guys sometimes break a lot. So there's a lot of risk in letting it ride and betting on yourself. He doesn't have a lot of miles on him. He has outstanding mechanics, and he's got the build to keep doing that. But I mean, you can't strengthen your UCL. You can just hope it holds up. So, there's a lot of risk for him. And this is an opportunity for him to make an additional 80, $90 million on top of what he's going to make anyway, and guarantee that right now. And then, since it's a 7-year deal, he still gets to go to free agency as a 29-year-old. And surely he still can beat Yoshinobu Yamamoto's current starting pitcher record contract for total value. Like I think he can have a career earnings. I think he can take this extension, get a guarantee now, go back to free agency after 7 years, and still push a $500 million career earnings out of those two deals. I think he can easily get into the high 300 millions as a 29-year-old doing what he's doing. So
I agree.
If he bets on himself and he wants to set the record, I don't think he's going to get more than $490 million, $500 million as a starting pitcher, as a 27-year-old free agent. Maybe, but I doubt it. Like, there's a lot of risk in starting pitchers, and there's a reason why there's such a gulf between the kind of money that a Juan Soto gets and the record contract for a starting pitcher, 25-year-old Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who admittedly isn't proving it in MLB, but that's still the record. That just edged out Garrett Cole's contract a few years prior. So if we're looking at comps and we're looking at trends and we're looking at what teams do and don't do, I think it's a reasonable thing. And I don't think it's crazy to imagine him mulling that over and giving it a good look.
I think you hit the nail on the head where like 7 years is kind of the sweet spot. If you're the Pirates, it's attractive to you because you get him an extra 2 more years. If you're Skenes, it's attractive to you because you get to guarantee yourself a huge chunk of money. You still get to hit free agency before your age 30 season, which means, I mean, you're still going to get a pretty large contract. If you're Skenes and you perform the way you have been at age 30, yeah. I mean, Garrett Cole's contract, just for comparison's sake, was 9 years, $324 million. He signed that deal at age 29. So he was 1 year younger than Skenes when he signed that deal. So you got to imagine, like, if Cole can get 9 years, 300 million or 324 million at age 29, Skenes can get the same thing at age 30. Like I don't see where that wouldn't be on the table for him. And then you're looking at, between the number that you just gave, 170.
I'm offering 140, and that
140.
And I think that's aggressive. I think if you're running a hard bargain, you're not opening with that number. That's where you are willing to go to. I think you put on the table first like a 130, 135, and then you've got some room to give. And all of those are fair if he's a 5.5 WAR guy, and he can put up years that are better than that.
I think so too.
But we also have to bake in the risk of injury and unavailability. And so I think it is a very fair market for a pre-arb guy, a fair market offer on a 7-year extension. So that's what Ben Cherington, surely that's what he's been doing this whole time. That's why he hasn't signed a right fielder. That's why it's been so quiet, because he has just been nose to the grindstone negotiating this with Paul Skenes and his agent, right?
Well, not last weekend, but the weekend before, he was asked how much thought he's been given to an extension, and he says his quote was, "I haven't given it too much thought." So that makes me think that there really hasn't been any sort of conversations. But yeah, no, I think all of us here would love to see him remain a Pirate for longer than the next 5 years. And
5
like
is
you said,
optimistic.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
More like the next 3.
Yeah, like it makes sense to do it. If you're going to open up the wallet for somebody, this is the guy to open up the wallet for. Right?
He packs the park.
Yeah. All right, OG. Well, hey, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
I think every one of us would love to see that happen. Now it's just a matter of like both sides need to make it happen if that's the case. So
make him an offer, Ben.
Let's do it. All right. Thanks, OG.
Take care.
All right. So we've got some Paul Skenes extension talk. I think all of us would be pretty happy about that. But yeah, there was a quote. I think Adam Gray, not Adam Graves. Who's the AP guy? Will Graves. He had an interview with Paul Skenes a couple weekends ago. I think it was a Pirates Fest even, or maybe the weekend after. But yeah, the Skenes' quote was, he has not given too much thought to it. So yeah, that's all we know. That's all we know. All right. Next Sicko up. He's making his Sicko Soundoff debut, I believe. And that is Ian. Ian, what's going on? Welcome to Sicko Soundoff.
How's it going, Jim? Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Perfect. Well, OG opened us up with a little bit of starter talk, but my whole rant here, I want to talk about the bullpen.
All right.
So I know last year we saw David Bednar kind of blow up quite a few times. So my proposition is that we get a little insurance for David Bednar in the closing spot. This guy was non-tenured this year by the Nationals, and it's Kyle Finnegan. So I have a few stats here lined up, and then I want to hear what you have to say about it.
Yeah, let's talk about Kyle Finnegan a little bit. I do like the idea of some sort of David Bednar insurance, though. Like I love that idea.
Yeah, I think it's, you want to bet on some positive regression, but I think if you're actually competing in 2025, you need a little bit of protection there. So Kyle Finnegan last year had 38 saves. I know he blew up after, but he was an all-star in 2024. And he had 28 saves in 2023. His line of work in 24 was 63 and 2/3 innings. He threw 69 innings in 2023. But his pitch usage is what kind of intrigues me the most. So in 2024, he used the slider 68% of the time and his four-seam only 6% of the time. And it's a very similar split in 23. I think if you get Kyle Finnegan in with Oscar Marine, kind of get that fastball slider combo working, I think it can be deadly, especially with Fangraphs projecting Dennis Santana as our 8th inning setup guy. So I want to know what you're thinking about that.
Yeah, I know. I think Finnegan was a guy that Tyler brought up earlier in the offseason as like David Bednar insurance. I haven't given much like look at him in the last few weeks, but there's a lot to like about him. One, he's got closer experience. He's not like that dominant type reliever. Like he hasn't put up an ERA below 3 since 2020, but he's always been reliable. I mean, he's never had a season that was just like catastrophic or anything like that. And again, like with relievers, they're a little volatile, but I mean, he's been pretty consistent. Like every year, his ERA has been between 3.5 and 3.76, like for the last 4 years. Like you mentioned, he's got the saves, 38 saves last year, 28 saves the year before, 11. I mean, he's got 88 career saves. So like he's someone that you're comfortable. Like if you need to throw somebody into the ninth inning, he's a good bet. Yeah, the pitch usage is interesting because it looks like he kind of swapped the slider and the split finger in terms of usage in 2023. I'm looking at kind of just the effectiveness of those pitches, and his fastball's historically been pretty good. His split finger has also been very good. The slider, maybe that's why he's not throwing it so much, just because it hasn't really graded out that well. He's an interesting guy, and you got to imagine at this point in the offseason, I mean, if he's still available, you could probably pick up someone like Kyle Finnegan for $5 million. That seems reasonable.
I think he got non-tenured and he was projected between 8 and 9 million in arbitration. It's very unlikely that those non-tenured guys get like a multi-year deal, but like if I'm Ben Cherington, I'm willing to maybe he wanted 8, maybe give him 2 years, 10 or 12, and maybe that's more enticing to give him an extra year. Then he can check that box that he signed.
I would say that would require a multi-year deal there, Ian.
Yeah. But I have a little data here on a similar project that the Pirates have used. So I didn't use Dennis Santana's 2023 numbers because he didn't pitch that much. I think it was like 10 innings of work. But in 22, he pitched close to 60 innings. I used the slider 40%, fastball 7%. And then last year, we kind of saw him emerge as a guy out of the bullpen. And he got that slider percentage at 33 and then brought the fastball usage up to 26. So I think if they do get Finnegan in there, I think that they would try something very similar. And I think Santana has his ARB hearing today. I don't know if we have a number on that yet. But
yeah, I don't think we've heard. I think the only one we've heard so far is Oviedo. I think all the ARB hearings they're done. I just don't think they've announced it. But yeah, I mean, I agree. Like I think they need some sort of depth there because like if you look at if you just go by roster resource, like right now, Joey Wentz is still in the bullpen. Do you really want to rely on Joey Wentz right now? I don't.
I would
necessarily. Yeah. I agree. Like if there's one person who I'm going to bet on for a bounce back, it's David Bednar. The stuff still seems good. He's historically been good. Like I said, relievers are volatile, so I'm just going to chalk up like last year's off season, and I'm gonna like bet on him for this year. But I think it's a really good idea to have something in the chamber where it's like, all right, if David Bednar doesn't work, it can at least fall back on this guy. And as much as I like some of these relievers in the Pirates bullpen, like I like what we saw out of Santana. I think Holderman can be effective. I think he was overused, a little bit last year, and that's what caused him to break down there in the middle of the summer. I like Majinski. I like Kyle Nicholas. Like I like these guys, but it's like, can you rely on them if you need them like as that backup closer? And I don't know if I'm there yet on any of those guys. So Finnegan makes sense. The other guy that I've kind of been talking about a little bit lately, maybe not so much on the show, but like Craig Kimbrel.
Yeah, that was my next guy.
And I know that he kind of fell apart there at the end of the year for Baltimore, but like you're talking about one of the all-time greatest closers ever, consistent performer, like for 15-ish years. He's had like 1 or 2 bad seasons since 2010. Is he the same guy as he was a decade ago? No, but like he's still not that far removed from some pretty darn good seasons. So like, I feel like that's another route you could go is Kimbrel. Better stuff. He's going to strike out more people. I think the upside with Kimbrel is better than the upside with Finnegan. Finnegan's floor may be higher. Like Kimbrel has that potential to just blow up. Whereas Finnegan has kind of shown that he's a consistent performer. And he's not as old. But I kind of want to bet on the upside of a Craig Kimbrel. I mean, because you could bring Kimbrel in and he gives you just an absolutely great season, right? Like he's capable of doing that. So that's kind of the guy I'm thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, just a couple numbers on that. I mean, even though last year was bad, his whiff rate was still around 31%. His K rate was at 31%. So that goes back to your stuff argument.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he got 13 mil from the Orioles last year, but like we said with Finnegan, he's still sitting here. It's February tomorrow. I mean, I don't know what it would take to get him, but I mean, I would throw like 8 to 10. I mean, I feel like, and if he's bad, or if he's good and the Pirates are bad, you flip him at the deadline to someone in contention. I mean, the Ben Cherington special. And then one last name I wanted to throw out here. He recently got DFA'd by the Dodgers. Ryan Brazier, low innings of work last year. I know he had a lot of there's injury risk there, but he fits, I think, the Pirates bullpen with the slider fastball combo and good chase rate and good extension. I just think the Dodgers, I mean, you're going to wait because I think he's due like $4 million. So you're going to wait till he gets through waivers and hopefully you maybe sign him there. But I think he's a guy who like is a flyer on maybe like he gets it, he stays healthy for a little bit and can kind of give you a couple innings at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I think with Brazier, I would be shocked if he, like Penn mentions here, like he won't fall to us, I don't think, in waivers. But I don't think Brazier's getting claimed by anybody. Like, I don't think Brazier's being put on waivers. I think someone's going to make a trade for Ryan Brazier. $4.5 million for a reliever that's as effective as him. I feel like there's going to be a team out there that bites and gives LA something to avoid the waiver process. Could the Pirates be in play there? Yeah. He is somebody who he's a veteran. He's shown he's had success. The one thing he's missing as opposed to the other guys is like that closer role. Like he's never been a closer really. But I like Ryan Brazier. I think he could be a good piece here. I just have a feeling a lot of teams are probably like in on him right now. And so it's like, how bad do you want him? Because I feel like a trade is probably likely in this case.
But like, what would you think that trade would be? I mean, the Pirates. I mean, who knows what the Dodgers need?
Right. You're probably looking at he's still a middle reliever. Like at the end of the day, he's a seventh inning guy. He's going to cost you a minor leaguer who's not in your top 30. Like that's probably what you're looking at. So you just got to come up with a guy like that LA likes, that isn't necessarily a top prospect. But I feel like there's going to be a lot of teams in on him.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just one quick thing. I think I'm running out of time, but do you see either like Mike Burrows or like an Ashcraft making the opening day roster in a bullpen role, or do you think they're going to be in Indy first and then maybe make their way to Pittsburgh later in the year?
Yeah, Little Beer kind of asked a similar question here. Can we turn one of these minor league pitchers into a strong reliever? And I think there's the possibility of both those guys, Burrows and Ashcraft, of ultimately becoming a reliever. Burrows probably more so. Ashcraft is just one of those guys though, where like command's just so good that like, and I know that injury, like he just hasn't been able to stay healthy, but the command's so good and the stuff's so good that you've got to try him out as a starter. Like the upside's too high. Like he's on top 100 lists and he's barely pitched, but everybody's like, he's really good when he's out there. So I think with Ashcraft, you may just need to be patient and just like, you want to see what he can give you as a starting pitcher. Ultimately, both of those guys may end up in the bullpen. They also do need like starting pitching depth, especially with Ortiz being traded. Like you're gonna have to have like 3 or 4 guys down there in Indianapolis who can start Major League Baseball games. So that may be where Burrows comes into play too. I wouldn't be shocked though if Burrows eventually makes his way into this bullpen. Same with Ashcraft, but I think Ashcraft, you just got to hold out hope a little bit longer that he can just stay healthy because the upside's just too high.
I agree.
So. All right.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. Anything else?
No, that was all I had. It wasn't as exciting as Skenes extension talk, but I think the bullpen. You live and die with the bullpen, so you win and lose a lot of games there. So
the bullpen's one of those things where like it doesn't get a ton of attention, but if like you're a team and you're like a borderline team, like the Pirates are, like they're a 500, like the way they're constructed right now, it's a 500 team. Your bullpen can swing your season like 4 to 5 games in either direction. Like if they're really good, they can steal you some games. If they're bad, you're going to lose games that you should win. So yeah, bullpen's it's a big piece of this team coming up, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Hopefully we don't lose 10 straight this year. So
yeah, let's hope not. That happened while I was out west on that road trip. So maybe I just need to avoid Pirates games in the summer for a little bit.
Go through a little detox, but
all right, Ian. Hey, thanks for coming on. All great stuff. Nice Sicko Soundoff debut there.
Thank you.
All right. See you, man.
See you.
All right. Let's bring on John. John's always the most optimistic out of everybody. Me and John get in some nice debates in the Discord. I'm always telling him how much everything sucks. He's always telling me how good everybody is. So what's up, John? How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. What do you got for us?
So real quick, and this is going to go against the whole optimistic thing. Thinking about a Skenes extension, it seems like a non-point, non-discussion, non-starter. Today, I listened to Jason Mackey talking, and I don't know how connected he is, but he basically said no one on Skenes' side or on the Pirates' side have even mentioned this extension, and everybody's treating it like we have him until the end of his contract, and then we're going to move on. So that's not promising to hear. And at this point, after losing the extra year of control for the performance incentive stuff, it's basically like 3.5 years versus 7 years in his mind, probably. Like if 3.5 years, if they're not in it at the deadline 2028, they'll move him. So I don't know how much he likes it here. He seems like a team first guy, not a good guy, but that could all just be a facade, to be honest. He could just be a good guy. He's just making us think he's a good guy. But there's no reason for the Pirates to buy out 1 year. It would have to be 2 years. I feel like it wouldn't make sense to take on the financial risk up front for just 1 more year. And I don't see him doing the 7th year. I think if you just wanted to add 1 year, he'd do that. But that wouldn't be very advantageous to the Pirates. Yeah.
I tend to agree. Like because the Pirates are taking a risk here too. Like the Pirates are guaranteeing over $100 million to a guy where they don't have to. Like he's on their team for 5 years regardless. Like they have control of him. So if you add 1 year to that, you're picking up a lot of risk. So yeah, like if you're going to do this, the 2 years is I agree with you. Like that makes the most sense. Like you got to give the Pirates a little bit.
Yeah. Also, with the reliever talk, just one other name I wanted to throw out because he might be forgotten because he didn't pitch at all last year. Moretta. I think if one guy has the combination of closer stuff, he struck out close to 12 guys per 9 last year in 2023, and also like the closer mentality. Like he seems like a guy that would relish in the late inning role. Mm-hmm. I'm more of a guy that I don't think they need an established closer as insurance. They just need to keep getting guys with good stuff, and you work that out later. Like I don't think it needs to be like only closers can close.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. The one thing to keep in mind with Moretta, and I haven't really heard much on this front, but like his Tommy John surgery was March 21st. So like he's not going to be ready opening day would be my guess. He's probably like a midsummer guy, but I haven't really heard anybody talk about Dauri Moretta and like how his rehab's going.
Yeah, I don't know how well connected everybody is, but get somebody on that.
Yeah, I'll ask.
He should be starting to throw by now. Like Oviedo was throwing 8 months after his surgery, around that. So I would think Moretta's starting to throw right now. At least they have a program in place.
I would imagine there's something happening there.
Yeah. But the main thing I want to talk about today is I think Cherington has assurance that he's going to still be here after the season. As crazy as it sounds, and as bad of an idea as that sounds to everybody else, he's operating with absolutely no urgency at all. Like if I was in his shoes, I would be trying to make a Chris Archer 2.0 trade or something like that. Like I'd be trying to see what would stick. I wouldn't be running with Palacios or Sawinski and right. I wouldn't be running with IKF at short. Like it seems like he thinks that there's no urgency. And also I think that plays into like the fact that there's a lot of questions, and maybe the reason why they're not filling the right field void and they're not upgrading the shortstop void is they just want to see questions answered this year and then reevaluate for next year, which once again is batshit insane. And I don't like it, but I don't see any other reason why you would be like, well, we have this hole in right field and let's just throw everybody who hasn't hit yet in it and see who sticks. Like, let's give Sawinski a go. Let's give Endy a go. Let's give Yorke a go. Let's the shortstop hole. Let's try Yorke. Let's try Gonzalez there. Let's try Peggy there. Let's try whoever else there. It seems like they're still in the rebuilding stage, late, and they're not really ready to go for it yet. And that is because they're risk averse. But Cherington shouldn't be. Like I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean I'm with you. Like it's strange because you would assume that like this is your last shot. This is year 6 of your tenure, year 2 of Paul Skenes. You've shown nothing up to this point. Yeah, as far as winning at the major league level. Like 6 years is a lot of time. It's a lot of time. Like if you live to be 60 years old, it's 10% of your life. This is a 60-year-old, 10% of a 60-year-old's life has been the Ben Cherington era, and they've produced 5 last place teams.
I will say, and there is one piece of evidence for this, they still have a scapegoat. His name's Derek Shelton. So they can totally throw him under the bus and say, like, we saw improvement. It wasn't enough. We feel like we need to change the on-field manager, and we'll be better next year. It really feels like that's the way it's going. I don't like it. I feel like it's a bad idea, but I don't see any other logical explanation.
Yeah, and I think what like just where I'm thinking is like that should have been the conversation this offseason. Like everyone should have been on the hot seat last year, and they clearly weren't. And like was Shelton, could Shelton have been the scapegoat this offseason? He wasn't. Instead, it was Andy Haynes and some development and player development people and scouting people. Like those are the changes that they made. They didn't really make any changes at the tippy top. So as much as like I kind of agree with you that like Cherington is operating this offseason like he
still has next year. Yeah.
Like he's not worried about this year. Like that's kind of what it seems like. Unless he's got this like crazy trade that he's got up his sleeve, that he's already talked to some GM and they're like, you know what, if we can't find anything better, it's one of those things like if we're both single still at age 40, let's get married. Like did he
I'll keep that offer in mind.
Yeah, like did he find some general manager out there where it's like, hey, you know what, if neither of us has found something by February 20th, we're gonna do this. Like if something like that exists and he's been talking to the Angels about Taylor Ward or I don't know, but if
we're really running out of time.
Yeah, that's it. Like there's no other moves out there to make to like really address this corner outfield spot, not on free agency. Like there's guys, but like nothing that's gonna take you from a last place team to a playoff team.
No, and I'm very tired of the right field free agent discussion. Like they're like 10 options and they're all bad, and it's just debating what degree of bad you're willing to go with, and it's not great. It's not good.
I agree.
But one of the other things I want to talk about is why does it seem like Nick Yorke is so slept on? Like, I feel like a lot of people in the Pirates Discord that we're in, they're starting to come around to the Nick Yorke hype. But this is a guy that was the number 33 prospect in baseball via Fangraphs going into after the 2021 season. And he put up a 149 weighted runs created plus in single A. Last year with us in triple A, he put up a 147 weighted runs created plus, which I think is even more impressive. And it seems like a few select Pirate fans and who was it? Keith Law are the only ones on the Nick Yorke hype train at the moment. I'm surprised he's not on any other top 100 prospect lists. Yeah.
He's a good little ball player, John.
He's a good little ball player.
He's a good little ball player. I think this is where the Adam Frazier signing just didn't make sense to me, because by signing Adam Frazier, you're effectively removing Nick Yorke from the roster, is what you're doing.
Unless they plan on Yorke being opening day corner outfield starter.
Yeah, like unless that's it. And if that's the case, they've been doing a good job keeping that secret. Like, I mean, you could just, I guess you want the dude to come into spring training and you want him to compete for a job, but, and I also don't know if that's the best fit for him either. Like, I like Nick Yorke. I think he can hit. I think he can be a good ball player if you put him in like the best positions to succeed. And I don't know if just like plopping him in right field at age 23 is the way to do that. It's a position that he can technically play, but it's not like his number one position. I do think he's best suited for the outfield as opposed to the infield. I think he could be passable at second base, but like he's not playing the left side of the infield. Maybe third every once in a while in a pinch if you need him, but he's not a shortstop. But I think he can hit. I think he's going to be able to hit for average. I don't think there's going to be a ton of power. Like, I think Nick Yorke can be the Nick Gonzalez that we wanted Nick Gonzalez to be. Like, that's kind of where I feel like with him. And I think Nick Gonzalez, I think there's still something there for him to show. But I'm with you. Like, if I'm running this team and I can't make any other moves, Nick Gonzalez is my shortstop and Nick Yorke's my second baseman, if I'm being completely honest.
That's another thing about the whole Charrington thing that's also running in my head. The team looks really well set up for 2026 if one other guy proves himself, whether that be like a Jack Sawinski, a Josh Palacios, Henry Davis, Andy Rodriguez, any of those. If one of them prove themselves and you put Tamar Johnson at second base next year, move Gonzalez to second.
Tamar's got to prove himself too.
And move Gonzalez to short. Everything looks like it would fit in very well. But once again, if I'm Charrington, I'm like, but I can't take the risk of waiting because we're going to lose this season and I'm going to get fired.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, you can't rely on any of those guys. Like, I think that's where I've been at this whole time. Like, there are things to like about some of these players, but you shouldn't be relying on any of them. Like, you can't be relying on Nick Yorke in right field. You can't be relying on
and I think that's
Swinsky.
Where a lot of Pirate fans are not hyping up Nick Yorke as much as other prospects would, because we're at a stage in the rebuild now where you shouldn't be relying on prospects anymore. Although, as a small market team, we're always going to rely on prospects. Like, there's no way to get around that. I just feel like people are at the stage now where they're like, we should only be using proven players.
I don't think we need to, like, there's still going to be prospects that you need to rely on, but I don't think we should be relying on people who have shown us that they haven't been able to do it. You know, like that's kind of where we're at. Like Jack Sawinski showed us last year, he can't do it. Joshua Palacios showed it for 2 years, he can't do it. Nick Yorke, even last year, like he looked good in AAA, but in his limited time in the majors, he wasn't
yes and
good.
no. Like his actual results weren't great, but if you look at his StatCast and his expected page,
yeah,
I can't remember who it is. Somebody in Discord always compares it to. Is it Mike Trout? I think it compares it to Mike Trout, but
yeah, tiny sample size for Nick Yorke there. But yeah, they just like bring me something a little bit more reliable, and then let these guys who I like these guys, let them let them win the playing time. Like, let them show that they need to play more. That's where I'm at with these guys. Is like, you just can't be handing these people 600 plate appearances.
Yeah. And the last topic I had to talk about, how risky is it to go through this season with Mitch Keller? Because it seems like everyone is under the assumption that he will get traded next offseason. And the Pirates are going to be in a situation where a lot of players are going to be at the next ARB year. Cruz is going to be eligible for arbitration, so on and so forth. And they haven't seemed very excited about spending money. And if you get in a situation where Keller has arm surgery or Keller has a third straight year of his ERA going in the wrong direction, it might be difficult to move that contract. And then you have to dump money elsewhere, and then that gets into a whole other bag of worms. Just how risky is it to have Keller pitch the whole season?
I mean, the one guy, I mean, Cruz is really the only guy moving to arbitration next year.
But everybody that's currently in arbitration gets it.
Everybody who's currently is going to move up. But like the guys who are currently in arbitration, like I don't think any of those guys are going to be due for necessarily like huge raises by any means.
But also Keller gets a little pay bump. Reynolds gets a little pay bump.
They do. Yeah, I don't know. I think
just based
I think
off
it's
of
always
this
a risk
season and how hesitant they are to get any money involved. Like their payroll's still at $80 million.
I think it's always a risk to. I mean, the pitchers are always going to be a risk, I think. But like, you can't trade Mitch Keller just because you're scared of Mitch Keller possibly getting hurt. Like,
yeah, but I still think the 7 they would have 7+ good starters still that I would be pretty comfortable with. Like Harrington's not going to have amazing stuff, but he's going to slot in as a 4 or 5. He has excellent control.
Maybe like you don't know that. Like we said the same thing about Quinn Priester 2 years ago.
True.
We said the same thing about Mike Burrows 2 years ago. Like 2 years ago, Mike Burrows was knocking on the door, ready to take over a starting spot.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I like the guys. I also think it's that you got to weigh the risks and you got to maybe take some chances with this payroll, with this club. If you're only going to spend $80 million, and you have Holtz places, you might have to take some risks, and that'd be one. If I could fill right field, and that just means that a Burrows or an Ashcraft or Harrington gets a few more starts, I'd take that. It's just weird to me that everybody.
I guess my counterpoint is like if your payroll is $80 million and that's all you're willing to go, then like,
what's the point anyway?
What's the point anyways? Yeah, like if that's all we're willing to do, it's like who even cares?
It's just weird to me that everybody's saying yes, we're almost certainly going to trade Keller next year. Like I don't know if it makes sense to kick that can down the road. I don't know if maybe if we're out of it at this trade deadline, it makes sense to trade him then. Maybe. I hope we're not.
Yeah,
but
I have a feeling
it seems risky to me.
Yeah, I have a feeling that I think this team's about a 500 team, which means at any point in time they could be 3 to 4 games below or above 500, and if that's the case, like at deadline time, like they're going to be within a few games of the wild card, and so like I think they'll be like I don't think they'll be out of it.
To play just one more thing, trading Keller if they're in it, depending on what that definition of that is, that's a move that like a team like the Rays or the Brewers make. Like they look at what's down the stream in their pipeline and they say we got to strike while the iron's hot, so to speak. Like that's a move that the teams that we're trying to be like would make.
And I think a lot of things could change then too. Like if it's July 31st and you're in it, and Bubba Chandler has come up and establishes himself as basically ace number 2, then yeah, Keller probably becomes a little bit more expendable. But if none of these young guys pan out and you're relying on Keller as your number 2, because maybe
you can't do it then.
Yeah, then you can't do it. So I think there's a lot of questions still, but like I'm not in any hurry to trade Mitch Keller right now.
Oh, somebody in the chat just made a hot take. Harrington greater than Bubba.
Yeah, Penn's been saying that for a while. He's a crazy person. That's I like Thomas Harrington a lot. I think his floor is probably higher than Bubba Chandler. But I think Bubba could be like real special.
Yeah, I always I've said that he's closer to Skenes than he is to Jones, in my opinion, which is potentially crazy hype. And I'll change that opinion if Jones comes out and actually has a splinker. If he added a pitch, then he's in that next tier as well. But got to see it first.
Yeah. All right. You got anything else for us, John?
Let's go Bucks. Less than 2 weeks. Wait, whenever you have the next Sicko Soundoff, pitchers and catchers will have reported.
I think that's accurate.
And that's pretty sick.
That is pretty
February 12th, they report. Next Sicko Soundoff will be Valentine's Day.
We'll get to talk about grainy cell phone videos from Alex Stumpf and Noah Hiles and Andrew Destin.
I'm already excited. You don't need to talk it up anymore.
All right, John. Hey, appreciate you coming on. As always, you are a true sicko. All of you guys are sickos. So appreciate you.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, it was a fun episode. We talked about Paul Skenes, talked about the bullpen, talked about all kinds of stuff. So again, like this show is all about you guys. The way you can get on it is joining our Discord. The link's in the description. If you join that Discord, watch out. Every 2 weeks, we'll put a message out there where you can click a button. It puts you in basically a contest to be chosen to be on this show. So if you have anything that you want to say, come on here. As I said, it's a fun show. It's a chance for you guys to talk about what you guys want to talk about. It'll be hosted by myself, by DiNardo, by Tyler, typically. But yeah, everybody who came on today, appreciate you all. Appreciate everybody in the comments as well. Chat was hopping. Friday night, you guys, again, it's January 31st. The Pirates have spent almost no money this offseason, and here we are talking about the Pirates. So appreciate you guys. Let's go Bucks. We will be back Monday with Starbucks. So I'll catch you guys later. See you guys. All right, that wraps up this episode of North Shore 9. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whether you're listening on the podcast or catching us on YouTube, if you enjoyed the show, please give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It really helps us grow. And if you're listening on the podcast, a quick review goes a long way in helping others find the show. Plus, be sure to tell a friend about us. There's always room for more here in the NS9 community. And for those looking to support us a little more, consider joining our Patreon, become an MVP member, and get exclusive perks while helping us continue to bring you more of the Pirates content you love. Thanks again for all your support, and let's go Bucks.